Hi, you're listening to EVillBoy Radio with ep-1
and Matthew
with your weekly MMA update. All right, so let's jump into things. We're going to start off with our UFC 200 event and our guesses for who's going to be fighting on that card. We're going to do our main card, event picks, and what we've been talking about and what we've been hearing about is a Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor rematch. I'm a huge Conor McGregor fan, but honestly, I really don't want to see that fight go down again.
Just saw it.
What are you going to do? You got Nate Diaz doing a full training camp after you just got choked out by him. And that shit talk game that just doesn't work anymore now with you.
No, especially when you punched Nate and Nate just said what?
You stood there toe-to-toe with him, giving him everything you got.
He rocked the hell out of you.
You tried doing the one-up. Oh, 160, 165. No, let's do 170. And you finally found out that weight classes actually are a thing and that you should be fighting at the 145 division.
I honestly think he should fight at 170.
At 170?
Or even 155. But I like Conor at 170 because at 170, you see him all week.
You look a lot healthier.
You saw him when he went into his fight with, was it
Chad Mendes?
Chad Mendes, where Uriah Faber was joking around with him.
Yep.
See how irritable he was. He went off at him.
And he didn't look good when he went up to that scale.
Crackhead. I mean,
he wasn't looking good at all.
And
skin and bones he was looking at.
I like him. Not personally. I think fighters, I agree. I've heard Joe Rogan say it and other people say it. The cutting weight, I get it. It's a whole wrestling background. You cut weight to make fights, but you shouldn't be cutting more than a little bit of weight.
Even his coach has said that he wasn't going to be making that 145 weight again. And you know what? He won the belt. He beat Jose Aldo in the 13 seconds. But now what do? You can't just let that belt go. You fought at 170 against Nate, and you lost that fight. Now things are going down. You're a huge fighter from Ireland. You need to defend your belt now. Frankie Edgar's right there waiting for you. If you beat Frankie Edgar, then all the people who are talking shit about you, they have nothing to say after that.
I'm one of those people, and I will 100% admit if he beats, I said it all along.
Frankie Edgar's tough competition.
It was, who's he fought? He beat Poirier. Okay, that's good for an up-and-coming. He beat Diego Brandao, same deal. Good for upcoming. Dennis Seaver, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, let's give him a title shot? No.
Well, then he fought Chad Mendes after that fight.
He was supposed to fight Aldo, and I think it leveled it out. They gave him Mendes, and Mendes could say what he wants. He was saying he was healthy. Then they
said he was on, 11 days notice, 12 days notice, something like that.
He was saying up until the fight, I'm training, or while the whole time was supposed to be Aldo, I'm planning as if one of them's going to back out.
Exactly. He was getting ready for it.
He knew about it. There's no way he was out of shape. And let's be honest, an out of shape Chad Mendes, how out of shape is that? Chad Mendes, it's not like Johnny Hendricks where you see the before and after the weight cut where he just looks like a slob.
Yeah.
Mendes, no matter what time, he always looks like it.
He was sharp, and he was the best opponent that Conor McGregor had in the UFC so far. I mean, he tore his ACL during the Holloway fight, right?
Yeah.
But every other opponent that he fought, he knocked out. He knocked out 6 out of 7 of his opponents. Then he got to Aldo, and then he went up to 170. In that weight cut, he wasn't doing it. He wasn't fighting bigger guys. He was fighting smaller guys than him.
And Nate's not a natural 170er. Nate is a lightweight. Nate tried his hand at welterweight, didn't do so good, and was like, I'm going back to lightweight. Now, for them to fight, I like being able to walk around, though, at your weight class.
You looked a lot healthier.
You should be able to, up until a week before the fight, you should still be what you're going to weigh in at. I like that. I like where you're healthy going, because there's no way you're healthy. You're not peaking.
I mean, a lot of us ate the Skittles in that. We were looking at Conor McGregor. He came into the UFC. He beat everybody, right? And then he was like, you know what? I'm going to go up to 170. Or even before that, the original fight we were supposed to see was Conor McGregor versus RDA. And RDA got a broken foot, dropped out of the fight, and Nate Diaz saved the fight. What do you think would have happened if Conor McGregor did fight RDA?
See, now this one, I was 100% he's going to go up. RDA is going to kill him. RDA is going to kill him. And then I saw Conor. I saw how healthy he looked, how he looked like he put on a ton of weight and was going to have no trouble with the size.
He was looking sharp. He was looking healthy.
Actually going to be bigger than RDA.
He has a big frame. He has that triangle frame.
But yeah, he's really really skinny and lanky. So, when he bulked up,
RDA is no joke either.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Knocked out guys like
If he beat RDA, a lot of the haters, anyone that was saying that, the Jose Aldo fight, he would have shut all of them up. But we didn't get to see that fight.
I wanted him to shut me up though. RDA's, while he's great, he's got a lot of power. That's really what it is.
He's in his prime right now. He just came off a win off of Cowboy. Before he's beaten Nate Diaz. He's beaten Showtime Pettis.
That's Pettis and Ben Henderson. Those were the fights that I see where he really shined. Like, destroyed Ben Henderson. But the thing is like Connor has said it. He's sloppy. I think Connor could have made, like, when I saw the size difference when he moved up, I was like, okay, now I take away. I had Connor winning that fight. You had
Connor winning the RDA fight?
Connor winning the RDA fight after seeing what Connor looked like. I wasn't sure. I just didn't see RDA, because RDA I just see being a lot slower than Connor.
Slower, more sloppier.
Sloppier, and I see Connor trying to, maybe picking him off. I don't know if I see him finishing him. You got to imagine 5 rounds. Yeah, somebody's got to be, but, fight like that. I don't know. I just, all up to it, I was RDA, and then I saw that weight difference, and I was like,
we saw Connor on salad, like they said, and now we were going to see Connor on steak, and we all ate those Skittles, and we all believed in Conor McGregor. And you know what? I still do believe in Connor.
Like Connor on steak. The thing is can Connor go back from eating steak to eating that salad?
What does Connor do now? What do we want to see?
I want to see him go down just because I think you need to at least give Frankie the shot.
Okay, so he drops down to 145. He doesn't fight Jose Aldo. He fights Frankie, in your opinion?
See, that's...
Is that fair to Jose Aldo?
You're screwing somebody, either way. Aldo, I 100% agree.
Aldo already beat Edgar.
You know my opinion on Aldo. Aldo's my favorite. Aldo beat Edgar. It's been a while ago, though. That was a couple of years ago now. But Aldo's been my favorite fighter since the WEC.
And we all know his highlight knockouts in the WC. He went undefeated for 10 years?
No, that was
something like that. So he came into he was the only featherweight champion the UFC has ever had before Conor McGregor.
Yep.
And honestly, I don't think anybody was expecting that fight to only last 13 seconds. And it's hard for us to judge a 13-second fight.
It really is. It's also, like, the thing is how do you take a guy like that? Like Anderson Silva, he got a 6-year title reign. They gave him his instant title shots. No question about it. Why is it Aldo doesn't? But then you're going to give Ronda the title shot. Ronda, okay, when you got guys like Aldo and Silva, whose length was almost going as many years as Ronda's had fights, and then you're going to tell him he doesn't get an instant title shot, and now you're going to give Chris Weidman an automatic title shot, but you're not.
It's only fair to give the other.
If you're going to give Weidman a title shot, you got to give Aldo a title shot. Same thing with Kane.
So, apparently, with the UFC, they offered Jose Aldo the rematch, but not at featherweight. They offered Jose Aldo a rematch at a different weight class. So if he did beat Conor McGregor, he wouldn't win his belt back.
Yeah. It was a matter of, we're giving you your redemption shot. But if you lose this,
he wasn't even going to win his belt back. Yeah. That's a huge problem. And that also brings us to the next topic, which is Miesha Tate, Holly Holm. Holly Holm lost to Miesha Tate. And now what?
How does Holly Holm deserve a title shot?
Immediately.
I don't get it. You didn't even have a single title defense. You're going to get it. You're not going to give Aldo a title shot, but Holly Holm, because you want
and
Holly
she
to
hasn't
beat
defended
Miesha.
Anything.
You want Holly to beat Miesha so that when Ronda's ready, it's Holly versus Ronda.
Well, let's not forget, she beat the hardest opponent you could fight in the UFC, in the bantamweight females division. And we all thought Ronda Rousey was unstoppable. And we all thought that her reign, she was going to retire undefeated, just like she said. Holly Holm came in and took her out. And we are all astonished couldn't believe it. It was a huge upset. And then she gets her first chance to defend the belt, and she gets choked out by Miesha Tate, who Ronda Rousey has also beat 2 times.
I get the whole she was winning the fight the whole time and then she lost. You lost. That's MMA. That's the joys. That's why we all watch the sport. Nobody's watching to see, I know this is going to happen. Nope, you're watching because who the fuck knows what could happen. You think Ronda saw that kick coming? She's going up to this fight. She's like, I'm going to win this fight. Everybody's buying. I'm going to get another 16-second pay-per-view. Why am I going to waste this money?
And there was a lot of pressure on Ronda that night to finish that within that minute. So once it passed that minute mark, it was uncharted territory for her.
I think Ronda lets her emotions get over.
And she's definitely an emotional fighter. We see that in a lot of female fights. We see a lot of the female fights. It's on a different level in a way of personal. It's more personal. And the Ronda after Holly Holm lost to Miesha Tate, immediately Ronda Rousey said, "Looks like it's back to work for me." But honestly, she said what? She was going to take that entire year off before she was going to make her return to fight Holly Holm in a rematch. So now she sees an opponent that she already beat twice, and she's getting back in the gym. Do you think that's fair for her to get that rematch and not Jose Aldo to get that rematch now?
That's what I'm saying.
It's not fair.
But at the same time, Frankie's getting screwed left and right. Not so much. I mean,
all right,
Frankie had.
Let's bring Frankie's career back. Let's remind everyone how Frankie's career started, why we thought he was such an amazing fighter. He came in and he beat the prodigy, BJ Penn. He took BJ Penn's belt. So what happened after that point? Why does Frankie deserve this fight? He's destroyed everybody.
It's not just that. I mean, he comes in. Now, I thought he got that title shot against Aldo was a little premature. I mean, everybody wanted to see it, and I think that's what that came down to. Everybody wanted to see it because it was supposed to be Eric Koch. Koch was supposed to fight. Aldo got injured. That fight gets postponed. Then Koch gets injured. Now it's Edgar. Edgar comes in, and now all of a sudden it's like Koch's gone. Goodbye, Koch. And since then he's lost a few, and nobody cares about him. Edgar lost that fight, and has he lost since then?
All right, well, let's break it down. He's gotten wins over Uriah Faber, who hasn't lost any other fight besides a title fight.
Only title
and
fight
then,
and non-title fight.
Listen to this. Conor McGregor's only other fight, which we were all scared and nervous for, was against Chad Mendes, who came very close to beating Conor McGregor. And Conor McGregor got him in the knockout in the last couple of seconds of that second round, but came very close. We saw Conor McGregor on the ground on his back, even though Chad Mendes says that fight was on short notice. So after that fight, we saw Frankie Edgar come in on the TUF 22 finale and fight Frankie Edgar. And in the very first round, Frankie Edgar knocked Conor McGregor's toughest opponent to date before Nate Diaz. He knocked him out cold in the very first round. So does that not say that now Frankie definitely, without a doubt, deserves a chance to fight the champion at the 145-pound division, which is Conor McGregor? Or does Jose Aldo get that chance?
But I'm sorry, I don't see how you don't. I know you don't want to, and they don't want to take other fights. But if they're doing McGregor versus Nate, do Aldo Edgar.
So you're saying at UFC 200 on the main card.
That would be great. Aldo Edgar, or even the UFC in New York. Now that's legal in New York. Let's go Madison Square Garden, and you could have Frankie Edgar fighting on that card against Jose Aldo. That's a long shot because you're going until November. So maybe what you do now, UFC 200. You got, because I mean, let's be honest. Everybody's already said it's going to be Conor versus Nate too. Nobody really wants to see it because.
But we will watch it.
Oh, I'm definitely going to watch it. There's no way I'm missing it, especially if it's on UFC 200.
Honestly, I don't think Nate will do it, but okay, keep going.
I already want to see. But let's say we go. This is just a dream matchmaker thing here. You got McGregor versus Nate, Aldo versus Edgar. Winner of that fight each other at Madison Square Garden. Tell me that would be insane.
That would be definitely insane. I think UFC 200 main card, check this out. I see a Jose Aldo versus Max Holloway somewhere in there. I think Jose Aldo should build himself back up a little bit. If they don't get, I honestly believe he deserves that title shot.
I think he doesn't have a fan base. I hate to say it. Part of it's not speaking English. The other part's like, he's never been a talker, which, I guess his manager now has been pushing for them to, talk a little bit more, but he's not selling. But just picture that, how that would work out. If you have McGregor beats Nate somehow, or even if he loses, because let's be honest, he's still a champion, so he can still fight, goes on and fights Frankie Edgar. Frankie beats Aldo, or fights Aldo in the rematch. Either way, like, that would sell so many tickets.
Honestly, here's my breakdown. UFC 200. Let's picture this. Let everybody close our eyes and let's picture this. UFC 200 at MSG, Madison Square Gardens. Conor McGregor versus Frankie Edgar. Under that, Jose Aldo versus Max Holloway. Under that, Robbie Lawler versus GSP in a super fight.
Let's be honest. You bring back GSP. See, that's a matter of tickets versus where it should be. There's no way you put Robbie Lawler in a title shot to the returning king and you don't make that the main event. Like,
okay,
that would be
so
such
we can
a
put that as the co-main event and then have Jose
GSP's
Frankie.
Career, have McGregor coming off a loss and still headline over him.
Frankie Edgar deserves the shot against Conor McGregor. I definitely believe that. Jose Aldo wants to cry about it, and he definitely deserves it. But honestly, I think that what UFC 200 should be is all right. Let's go back. We have to beat UFC 100 card, which was GSP was on that card.
Thiago Alves.
We had Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir 2, right? Where Lesnar beat Mir, huge card. We also had
Hendo versus Bisping.
And honestly, UFC 200 is going to be the biggest name to date for a UFC event. And if we can get that now in New York City at Madison Square Garden and have Robbie Lawler versus GSP as the main event.
They're not doing it. They're doing 200 in Vegas.
At the new casino?
No, they always do it at what's it?
Well, there's a new casino that just opened up down there.
They always do their fan expo and everything. That's the big fight expo week in Vegas. I mean, it's like a big event. You go all week. There's like tons of stuff and fighters everywhere. They do the fan expo and everything.
All right. Well, we've been teased too much, and it's at the point we really need to talk about this. Is GSP coming back?
I would love it.
Oh, we would all love it. But is he coming back? Let's see what our hints were. Originally, we had Rory McDonald at a press conference, and he was hinting towards the return of GSP, our former champ.
It's been even way before that. Was GSP's camp put out that GSP would be taking a practice camp, basically. He was going to do a full camp, and if it went well, he was going to look into coming back. All of a sudden, the 2 months go by, and we start hearing rumor that he wants to fight, coming from his gym, coming from Faraz Sahabi. You got Rory making some comments left, right, and then now we're hearing more from Rory, whatever.
So do you think if GSP makes his return, should it be a title fight, or should it be against somebody like a Cowboy? Should he fight somebody like Cowboy? Or because honestly, he's already been a 2-time champion. He's already won the belt. He's pretty much accomplished everything he needs to accomplish. He said his only thing that he's ever wanted to do in his life was to be able to buy his mother a house, and he's done that. Now he's a retired fighter. He retired the night of the Johnny Hendricks fight. We weren't expecting it, but that's what he dropped on us.
Building up to it.
And we've seen this before. We've seen this in Fedor. You can't take that fight. They want to come back. They're thirsty for it. But
is different. Fedor came off a three.
I don't want to
loss
see
after 10
GSP
years.
fight someone too easy. I don't want to see GSP fight a nobody.
The thing is it depends on if he plans on coming back and giving it a go and continuing his career, or is he just looking for one fight to say, here you go, I'm making my one.
And if he does do that, should it be on the 200 card? Does he want to make a big appearance?
I think it would happen in Canada. It would also have to be somebody like Nick Diaz or, and I don't see it being a good fight anymore, but Anderson Silva, they always talked. And that'd be worse than Mayweather Pacquiao, where it's way past its prime.
So they set up Rory McDonald versus Stephen Thompson. All right. So imagine the winner of that. First off, both those fighters, they train together. So when they get in there, it's not like more of the fans are going to be thinking, oh, what is he going to do? But both those fighters are used to sparring with one another. They're used to going there. They're used to the stand-up game that both fighters have. And honestly, I'm going to make my pick right now. I really think that Rory McDonald wins this fight. And this is his last fight on his UFC contract. And if he does beat...
A big win is a huge negotiation.
There's a huge negotiation in there. And he was talking about going to Bellator. But imagine this. Imagine if Rory McDonald does beat him and then fights GSP in the return. So GSP doesn't have to fight the title fight.
You think GSP versus Rory? That's not happening.
No?
They'll never fight each other.
Why?
They're training partners.
They're both from Canada.
They're not both from Canada. They're both from the same gym. They're training partners. Like GSP directly trained with Rory. Rory's like GSP's protege. They won't fight.
They won't fight?
No, that's a no-go.
So who do you think GSP is going to fight this time around? If he does come back.
Who I would like to see? Johnny Hendricks.
You do want to see him fight Johnny Hendricks again?
I'm sorry.
That's a great...
I had Hendricks winning that fight.
The rematch.
I had him winning that fight, and GSP went...
That's the only fight to make for GSP. That's the only fight to make for GSP.
There's fights. If he plans on keeping the career going, you can just give him Carlos Condit or somebody like that.
Carlos Condit doesn't want to fight unless it's Robbie Lawler this time around.
He just posted something on Twitter saying...
give me anybody coming my way. You know where to call me, right? He was in the cold bath. He said, give me a call. They'll know where I'll be.
Yeah,
I saw that too. That was awesome. But originally, in that fight against Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit, it was extremely close. And Carlos Condit, after that loss, said he wasn't going to fight again unless it was Robbie Lawler. So does he come in? Does he fight GSP? And if he does fight GSP, who does Robbie fight? Stephen Thompson?
Robbie?
Do you want to see Rory McDonald fight him for a third time?
Yes.
Yeah?
You don't want to see Rory?
After that last fight, I think they went all out, everything they could give one another. And I think Robbie Lawler came up the better man that night.
Yeah, I don't think it would be as good as that fight, but I think it would still be a great fight.
You're hoping it would be something like that, but that was a one-time thing, I think.
I think with them, too, it's not. I think if they fought 10 times, 8 of those times, that would be...
Yeah?
Balls to the wall.
Do you think so? All right, so now, say, for instance, Rory McDonald loses to Stephen Thompson, and now the UFC throws this at us. We have Stephen Thompson versus Robbie Lawler. What happens? First round. All right, ding. What's going on? What's happening? Who has the control?
Robbie's going in, but I see Thompson throwing some quick head kicks.
Exactly what he did to Johnny Hendricks.
Letting you know I can kick the fuck out of your head.
But Robbie Lawler's not like Johnny Hendricks. Once he gets hit like that, he starts moving forward, and he doesn't give you that space to start throwing those punches, those kicks.
He's got those kicks from, I mean, let's be honest, how much of a reach advantage is he going to have?
Robbie Lawler's also an amazing wrestler to go in on that.
Yeah, it was just, like, I love Robbie, don't get me wrong, but I feel like if he lets Stephen Thompson, like, keep his distance at all, like, he's got to get right in on him, so.
Well, all right. We saw that fight already with Rory McDonald, who had that same reach, that same strike. This isn't something new for Robbie Lawler.
Rory was throwing some kicks. Yeah, no, I'm not saying because
It's not like
before this,
something he hasn't seen.
I'll be honest. Before this Hendricks fight, I didn't see.
He made Hendricks look like a veteran fighter.
I saw Stephen Thompson as, okay, this is going to be the exciting fight of the night. I did not see it as this is going to be a title contender. Like, it seemed like he was throwing those flashy kicks.
He's not.
But if you gave him somebody like Tyrone Woodley, I feel like Tyrone Woodley would run right through him.
I agree.
So,
I agree on that. I'm not going to be biased on that.
I would 100% love to see Lawler versus Tyrone.
That's what needs to happen.
Tyrone Woodley.
It's also
Lawler.
like a freaky Andrew thing. Tyrone deserves that shot.
Tyrone has the wrestling and all, but at the same time, Tyrone likes to knock people out. Robbie loves to knock people out. So just picture how good that would be. Put those two.
All right. Well, here's the setback to this, and this is what kind of makes this a little confusing. If I was Dana White, all right, we wanted to see Woodley versus Hendricks, right? We saw their videos back in college where Woodley was fish hooking. We're on the second. He was fish hooking Hendricks, and ended up losing that fight. So the UFC ended up making the rematch, and Hendricks he couldn't make that fight. He ended up having intestines, something wrong with his intestines, right? And he couldn't make that fight. So Tyrone Woodley fought somebody else. So we've been waiting to see that fight. And if anything, Tyrone Woodley deserves a title shot. Now that we've seen Hendricks get knocked out by Thompson.
Yeah, when was Woodley's last fight? I can't remember him fighting.
So I don't think that's fair. I think that's another case, like a Frankie Edgar fight. I don't think that's fair to him. That he should be on the sidelines waiting. He's ready. He's in there. He's ready. And I wouldn't be surprised if they released Robbie Lawler fight for UFC 200. Him on the main card would be huge.
It's been a huge rumor. Like, nobody's confirmed anything. Nothing's leaked, but it's just been rumored that Robbie would be on that card. And so for the other rumor I kept hearing was Kane, and Kane is on it. So
Kane
is fighting Travis Brown.
He's fighting Travis Brown?
Travis Brown, that's right, yep.
All right, so let's get into something else that UFC fans are also curious about. What about CM Punk? CM Punk, we got fooled with this. Here's what happened with CM Punk, all right? We were all kids at one point. We all watched WWF. We started into WWE. Then we kind of faded out. Oh, CM Punk is coming to the UFC. We saw Brock Lesnar come in. He's not anything like Brock Lesnar to me.
Brock Lesnar
honestly.
was a college champion. He was, a freak athlete. CM Punk, he looks like, let's go, I'm gonna fight.
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem. The UFC is trying to set up a fight with CM Punk against Mickey Gall. They set Mickey Gall up with a fighter who's also a reporter, and in his first fight in the UFC. They found him on Dana White's Looking for a Fight with Matt Serra, and he won his fight. All right, awesome. He ended up rear naked choking his opponent. Awesome. He ended up going to that next fight. He fought
Was it Michael Jackson?
Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, who's actually a reporter, and he's actually an amazing guy, cool guy, and he stepped in for this fight. Mickey Gall defeated him the same way he defeated his opponent on Dana White, Looking for a Fight, with the rear naked choke in the first round in the first couple of minutes. CM Punk, who was waiting in the crowd, because, UFC's WWF now, and they come in, CM Punk's now in the ring, and CM Punk and Mickey Gall are facing off with one another. And CM Punk goes, so is that how you want to get it done? Because they're trying to set up the CM Punk fight with him now. He says, is that how you're trying to get it done quick and fast with the rear naked choke? And he said, yep. So now here we are. CM Punk had a little minor injury with his back. He got his surgery. And now here we are. It's going to be Mickey Gall versus CM Punk. Will it be before UFC 200? Probably not. But do we even care at this point to even see CM Punk fight? It's been too long. What's your opinion?
It better not be a co-main event or even
I agree.
I think it should be prelim. Like
It makes the main card. It's CM Punk. You got the WWF fan club coming to watch it. You're going to bring in the numbers
that
that night.
The second fight of the pay-per-view or something.
It's against a no-name fighter, Mickey Gall, but it's CM Punk. There's the name.
Well,
it's not.
That's the other thing. Are they? I mean, people are gonna word will get out, but are they gonna have him listed? On the event posters and everything saying CM Punk, or is it gonna say what's his name, Phil Brooks? Because if it lists as Phil Brooks, and people don't know, they're gonna see. Like if you say you look at the bottom, you do the TV guide on your cable, and it has a little UFC.
Who's Phil Brooks? Who's Phil
Brooks? And you see CM Punk, but he's in UFC gloves. He doesn't have the white tape with the X's, and he's standing there and it says Phil Brooks. You're gonna be like, who the hell's Phil Brooks?
I agree.
Versus Mickey Gall. I never heard of him either. So.
No one knows who Mickey Gall is unless you're a YouTube subscriber to the UFC fan site and you're watching Dana White looking for a fight, which doesn't have that many views. All right, and now here's another problem. CM Punk, I think he jumped into this too fast. They shouldn't have told us CM Punk was coming to the UFC before he had a little experience in it. At his gym, isn't he like 0-22, something crazy like that.
They said they did 16 fights.
He's like 0-16
he's lost
or something.
15 of them.
But also, he's training with some of the best in the UFC.
Training with the Pettis brothers and Ben Askren, and there's some big names there.
Also, he's in his late 30s.
He's probably not having his mock fights with Anthony Pettis, though.
This isn't going the way the UFC. Basically, it's not going the way the UFC wanted to go. He's not Brock Lesnar. I'm sorry. Stay away from the WWF. If you want to be a UFC fighter, you can't be an actor. You need to have more experience in jiu-jitsu. You need to have more experience in wrestling. You can't just jump into it. We don't care if it's
even worse. Now they're talking about Kurt Angle going into Bellator eventually. Oh my God, he's like 40-something years old.
Just stop. You can't at this point. You're looking desperate.
If you've done a career in it, that's one thing. You did a career more than 90% chance, 95% chance you were doing steroids, and now you want to come over? Like,
I don't agree. I really think we should stay away from the WWF. Stop texting Vince McMahon. Stay away from it, Dana.
That's why I don't like Bellator when they started doing it they started cross promoting with TNA. And that was the worst thing ever. I'm sorry, when I was watching, I went to put on Bellator, and it goes into TNA. 1 week, you see Tito Ortiz and Rampage fighting with each other, and Tito hit him with like a hammer or something in the back of the head, and they were like, oh, he's injured, he might not make it to his fight, and stuff like that. I mean, how ridiculous was that? Like,
they need to stop making it like that. All right, Bellator, here's the message to you guys. You did the Kimbo Slice versus the Dada. You did the Gracie versus the Shamrock. Stop with all that. Stop. We do not want to see that.
Other fights that were on those cards. Like, you got good fighters. You have
amazing fighters.
How do you not have...
Why are you doing these freak shows? You had 2 million viewers. All right. The 90s kids, we all know who Kimbo Slice is. We're going to view in because we know Kimbo Slice was the internet sensation, knocking dudes out in all the toughest hoods. Yeah, but he's not that fighter anymore. We watched him on the Brandon Schaub season of The Ultimate Fighter, and he got knocked out by Roy Nelson. He got accepted back in, and then he got knocked out again. We saw him in the UFC. He does not look good. We need to stay away from those fights, Bellator. Scott Coker, you have a lot of talented fighters. We have Michael Venom Page. We have
Brennan Ward.
We're about to go to Mohegan Sun, April 22nd, to go see Benson Henderson. Huge name, Bellator. Do not screw this up with the title fight against. And honestly,
I wasn't impressed in his last fight when he won the belt. It was a boring lay and pray type of fight. So I wasn't excited. But now Ben Henderson's fighting him. You can't really just lay and pray on Ben Henderson. But top that off, you got Brennan Ward is fighting Cyborg Santos or whatever his name is.
Yep.
Michael Venom Page.
And we just found out this week that Michael Venom Page is going to be on the card. That's huge news.
To Mohegan yet again. He's fighting Jeremy Holloway.
Yep. And also a
One of the
huge
football
name that
players.
Bellator just signed in this last couple of weeks is Matt Mitrione. So Bellator looks like they're trying to sign a lot of UFC fighters that are looking down on their contract, which is why Rory McDonald was kind of hinting towards, it's his last fight coming up. What is he going to do? Is he now scaring the UFC to
I think it's scare
raise his check,
I think
right?
it's scare tactic. And I think waiting to do it until after the fight with Thompson, it's
I
a big
agree.
risk. But if he beats Thompson, you have to give him money.
I agree. He's an amazing fighter. After he had fight of the year last year, he's an amazing fighter.
The new UFC video game. You start the game off doing the Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald fight. You come in and you finish the fight.
You start as
that's the intro when you turn the game on. It starts off the crowds going, and then you watch the first 3 rounds of Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald, and then
it comes in when they do that stare off, right?
No, it comes in at the beginning of the 4th, I think.
That's so sick.
And you basically finish him off. But I mean, you put him right in the front of the video. The first thing you see is them two. So, I mean, you gotta give him money. You got somebody so, he goes to war. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of his ever since that BJ Penn fight. First, I thought he was just a hipster. It was kind of annoying. But the real thing was when he fought BJ Penn. And I don't like BJ Penn either. It's way too many excuses in his long history of excuses. But I'm not a big fan of his. But when Rory fought him, he literally just sat there and picked him apart and then would stop and let BJ, recover a little bit just so he could beat him up again. Like, he could have finished him so many times. And he intentionally just he wanted to showcase against him. I get it. You want to show off what you can do. But show it off by having an impressive quick win over BJ Penn, not by belittling a guy who, let's be honest, you've seen his last few fights. He's not what he once was.
I agree.
And if he comes back, that's another thing. The BJ Penn return. Who wants to see that?
Well, the BJ Penn return. Here's the problem with
Penn fans. I know, but who wants to see that?
BJ Penn's last fight was against Frankie Edgar in the season finale of Ultimate Fighter, right? And he was up there, and he looked so awkward. We do not want to see BJ Penn get hurt. And I listened to the interview with Ariel Helwani, and he said to his coach, and he's working down in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah, and that I like.
He said to the coach, Jackson Wink, he said, if I don't look like I can fight and you think that I might endanger myself, tell me. Do not hold back. Make sure you tell me, and I won't do it. I'll stop right there.
Because, what's his name? I was calling him out. I forgot his name. But, showed how big of a fight that was. I can't remember his name. But, he kept saying he's surrounded by yes men, and that's why he thinks he's so great. So I think that got into BJ's head.
Nick Lentz?
Nick Lentz, yeah. When all his things, he kept saying he was surrounded by yes men.
And he was calling Nick Lentz out. He said, Nick Lentz, I'm at this weight right now. If you want to fight me, let's do it now.
Yeah, Nick Lentz says he's not doing that weight no more. But I don't know. I hate when fighters are like, let's do it right now, but then they never end up fighting because it's like, oh, you just called each other out. Like when you have 2 girls, when you were in high school, you remember people fighting and they'd see each other and they start yelling from across the school at you. As soon as they see each other, they yell up to. By the time it gets to it, the fight never even happens because everybody breaks it up.
Yep.
That's all it seems.
Pretty much what it was.
You're hyping.
It's pretty much to get you relevant again. You know what I mean? You know what? Nick Lentz actually moved to Hawaii and he started training in Hawaii, and everyone in Hawaii was telling me, who is Nick Lentz? He's talking all this shit about you. So it kind of seemed like a promotion thing for Nick Lentz.
Yeah.
Because who's Nick Lentz?
Yeah.
Who's Nick Lentz? Name a Nick Lentz fight. I don't know. I can name a million BJ Penn fights.
A lot of people, but.
So, exactly. But he shouldn't be calling out BJ Penn. All right? Don't move to Hawaii. Don't call out BJ Penn. All right? Nick Lentz, let's not do that. All right? It's just not a safe idea. All right, so.
I can honestly. If BJ looked anything like his last fight,
Well, BJ Penn was also calling out Nick Lentz, and he said on the MMA Hour, Nick Lentz, here I am. You want to fight me? You're talking all this shit. You're in Hawaii. You're talking all this shit about me. I'm ready. I'm training. Let's fight. We waited that whole week. He came back. Nothing. Nick Lentz never called in. Never wanted to make that fight. So, you know
Well,
what?
he responded. He said he didn't want to do it at 145. He says for the rest of his life, he's done with that weight class. He's up. His body won't do it. I'm sorry.
All right. So, in other MMA, UFC news, the next big topic that we have to talk about is John Bones versus DC2. All right. So, in the first fight, this is an actual fight that even if you're not a UFC fan, you're probably going to end up watching with somebody because it's going to be all over the news. It's the best UFC fighter, in my opinion. There's no way you're going to miss this fight. Even in a commercial, you're going to probably want to watch this fight.
Like
If there's any boxing fight, this is pretty much the Pacquiao-Mayweather for UFC because UFC is a young sport. It's not like a boxing sport. There's no one that's 50 and oh, you know what I mean? But anyway, this is the biggest name for the UFC to put out there pretty much right now. We got John Bones coming back after being stripped of his title against his biggest, baddest opponent with rival, which is DC. And now DC has his belt. So what do we do now? He comes back into the UFC for UFC 197, DC versus John Bones. What's going to happen? Are we going to see the same kind? We saw them in the Unstoppable press conference, and we saw the same thing with DC. We saw DC getting upset with the crowd booing him. We saw John Bones acting the same way, telling DC to suck it. We loved it. Come on. What are we planning on seeing in this one? Do you think DC's a more aggressive fighter this time around? Is he more well-rounded? Is he ready? He was saying that he didn't want Herb as his referee this time. He looks like he's nervous about losing the belt, honestly. I'm not going to lie. John Bones is a freak athlete. What do you think's going to happen, Matt?
First off, if every way I see this going is John Jones winning this fight. If John Jones loses this fight, I'm going to be devastated. And
Why? How is he going to win this fight? That's different than last time. You watched the last fight with DC versus Gustafsson. What he did to Gustafsson.
The power. If he lands that shot, it's just, it's like anybody else, like with that. Like just like Roy Nelson, just like Hendo. They land that one punch and good night. But John Jones has faced that. He got punched by Rampage. He got punched by Shogun.
Rampage didn't even know what to do. Rampage was like, all right, what do I do? I'm losing on the feet. I'm losing on the ground. I'm losing everywhere.
Shogun. That was what killed Shogun. Like, where you got Junior Dos Santos getting beat twice in a row by Kane, and that's what killed him. No matter what, he'll never be the same.
Never be the same after that fight.
Maybe it's the injury, because he came back from a big injury, but Shogun getting beat up by John Jones, and ever since it's just always been like every fight somebody's like, please retire.
So here's the controversy. This is what everyone has been talking about this. I have a different opinion, but they make a good point with this. Bas Rutten has said, we've seen this before. We've seen this with Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods had this whole outside thing out of his sport with his wife. He had all this controversy going on, and he returned to the sport. Wasn't the same. Are we going to see that in this returning fight with John Bones versus DC? What is DC going to do different this time?
So hungry for it, dog. Did you see those pictures of him lifting weights? And
he's doing a lot of powerlifting.
And the thing is that was DC's like strength over him. He was more powerful. He could push him in the direction he wants. John Jones losing a little bit of speed compared to Cormier. Cormier is a big guy.
Big guy.
He's not flying around that cage in full speed. So John Jones losing a little bit of speed but putting on a lot more muscle, I don't see how that works. Like he's like, oh, he's gonna be slower. No, Cormier, sorry.
All right, in defense of DC, because honestly, his last fight with Gustafsson, who was John Bones' hardest opponent to date. He picked him up and flipped him around on his finger, it looked like, threw him to the ground. And Gustafsson was running from him the entire fight. It went to decision. But honestly, I had Gustafsson winning that night. I really didn't want DC to win that night. And Gustafsson, honestly, DC deserved to keep the belt that night.
Oh, yeah. I had him winning it. And the whole fight, I was, like, by the 5th round, I was yelling at Gustafsson while watching the TV. I was in Syracuse. For
I was yelling at the TV as well, man.
And I was screaming, like, come on, because I used to like Cormier. When Cormier started, I mean, it was only for a little while. I wasn't, like, back in a Strikeforce fan. But when he fought, he won the Strikeforce Grand Prix and fought Josh Barnett and everything, like, I was rooting for him. And then he started talking to John Jones, and he reminds me, and they nailed it on the head with that fake poster. He reminds me of the dad from Family Matters. He just seems like so, like,
don't even say that.
Two shoes in your.
It fits so well. They've been doing a lot of really funny memes. But in defense, though, honestly, Alexander Gustafsson, his only loss has been to John Bones and Phil Davis, correct? And then after the loss to Phil Davis took him under his wing, started training him, and Mr. Happy.
Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful.
No, but who are we talking about he took under his wing?
Gustafsson. After Phil Davis beat Gustafsson, it was Gustafsson's only loss. He took him under his wing, started training him, getting him ready, and then to see him lose against John Bones, to see him lose against DC now. DC looked really sharp in that last fight, and I really think he's ready to fight John Bones, and this is going to be a blowout pay-per-view. Honestly, I'm a huge John Bones fan. He's beat everybody that I didn't think he could beat.
Well, that's why I used to hate him.
Keep it going.
But I was a serious hater. He came in. First off, he was the fighter when I was making my picks. I went 3 events in a row, got every single fight except for John Jones. I picked Ryan Bader over John Jones, and then I picked Shogun over John Jones. And both times he got, but
destroyed Shogun.
I'm a big Pride fan, and the old school fighters. He came in, he beat Shogun, made him look like nothing. He beat up Rampage, made him look like nothing. He was talking down Hendo, who to me was like literally a superhero to me. Like
he literally stomped Hendo. He picked him up and stomped Hendo.
No, not Cormier.
Oh, not Cormier. I'm talking about Bones.
They didn't fight. John Jones and Hendo. You're taking Cormier and Hendo.
He picked him up and slammed him.
Yeah, he picked him up and slammed him. Yeah, John Jones and him. They were supposed to fight, and they made him look like shit. Which they made both of them. That was one horrible. Just the way Dana made everybody look after that one.
Honestly, after this fight, I really think John Bones is going to beat DC, and I really am excited about this UFC being legalized or MMA being legalized in New York City. But we have to wait 120 days for them to get everything official, license everybody, and who is going to be the first headliner on that card for UFC New York?
Well, that all depends
at the Madison Square Gardens.
That depends on all these upcoming fights, but you got clearly Chris Weidman, John Jones, both want to be.
Both from that area.
Both from the New York area. They both want that because of the hometown guys. Clearly, that would be who you go for. Somehow. Now, if you have, because what's that? That's probably gonna be the November card. That's what they're talking about.
Yep.
There might be one New York event before then, but that would be the big Madison Square Garden card. So yeah, you have John Jones headlining. If he wins, John Jones versus Rumble Johnson. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the fight that never happened.
Here's what I see. If they do not do this for UFC 200, that is, I really want to see Conor McGregor versus Frankie Edgar in New York on the headline. You got Boston right there, which is huge Irish population. You also got a lot of Italians in this area. I'm Italian. I'm from New Haven, Connecticut, where we came right off the boat. We love Italians. We New Jersey's right there. We got Boston right there. You got a sold out show within days, within hours. Honestly, the first show in New York. Come on, Conor McGregor versus Frankie Edgar. I'll put away my month's savings for that fight.
You got John Jones and you got Chris Weidman. I see that John Jones versus Rumble, and if Weidman beats Luke Rockhold, then you got Weidman versus Romero, or Weidman versus Jacare, or Weidman versus who's Jacare fighting Vitor?
Jacare is fighting very soon.
Yeah,
he is fighting Vitor.
So I say if Jacare wins and Weidman wins, that co-main event underneath John Jones and Rumble, if it all plays out accordingly. Then after that, I'd like to see, in the meantime, if Gustafsson gets 2 fights, give him that rematch. Everybody wants to see that John Jones cleared out the division, goes up to heavyweight.
You do want to see him go up to heavyweight.
I used to not want to when I started seeing those videos he was posting since, he got suspended and everything. That's a scary guy.
Last topic before we take a 5-minute break, just to use the bathroom. Who does John Bones fight if he does move up? Who's his first opponent?
Depends on where the division's at. He's not going to fight Arlovsky.
We have Arlovsky fighting Overeem coming up. Yeah. Who are also training. They're in the same gym.
But there's always been that.
It's going to be an interesting fight.
Arlovsky's like big Greg Jackson's, whereas
we also watched,
like I train at Greg Jackson's.
We also watched Arlovsky just get knocked out by Travis Brown. Not Travis Brown. He got knocked out by Stipe, who is now fighting for the belt.
So who do we put John Jones against? We do John Jones. Does he get him? He just cleared out. Does he get an automatic title shot?
Ooh.
Does he fight whoever's champion?
You gave it to Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor was the champion. You gave him the next title shot against RDA.
He comes back. He beats in rapid succession. He goes through Cormier, Rumble, and Gustafsson. You go right up to Stipe or Verdum or whoever's champion at that point.
Here's the problem. This just isn't fair. If they're giving Conor McGregor title shots like that, John Bones Jones, who has destroyed everybody, if he wanted to do that, and he was like, Dana, let me move up and get a title shot. And you don't. What?
It's so weird.
There's no Dana actual formula.
Because he was going to do it. Remember what Pettis won a title shot at lightweight. And all of a sudden
BJ Penn as well. BJ Penn wanted to move up like that. BJ Penn was actually the only one to move up, but didn't win that second belt. He didn't. He's been a one.
He lost to GSP.
He's trying to be a 2-division champion, correct?
Oh no, he's been 2.
He's been a 2-division champion.
He was the welterweight, and he was the lightweight.
But not at the same time. Not at the same time.
He tried to.
That's what I'm talking about. So if John Bones wanted to move up while he was champion, if he beats Daniel,
because so far there's only 2. There's him and Randy Couture.
If he moves up for that title shot, if it's against Verdum, honestly, you can't deny him that if you gave that to Conor. This isn't fair. There's no actual formula. You're picking favorites.
I could honestly say there's no denying it. With John Jones, there's no denying him. And if they do, it's not just picking favorites. It's how do you give him anything other than a title shot? He cleared out an entire division. Like, every one of them.
I agree.
I mean, who is there in light heavyweight that hasn't fought him and lost? You think that top 10? Glover Teixeira.
You can't even say Matt Hamill because it was the 12-6, and he got.
Matt Hamill's off fighting in Italy, so you're not.
That was his only blemish